Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a time in every person's life when they must make a decision, not just to succeed, but to stop settling, to stop shrinking, to stop bending themselves into a shape that pleases the world, yet suffocates the soul. You've been taught to be agreeable, to smile through the discomfort, to say yes when your instincts scream no. And in the process, you've traded your strength for acceptance, your voice for approval, and your potential for peacekeeping. But let me tell you something that the masters of success understood better than anyone else. Greatness was never born from being liked. It was born from being bold. The individual who rises in life is not the one who seeks to please. It is the one who seeks to fulfill a purpose. When you always say yes, you say no to yourself. When you stay silent to keep the peace, you declare war within. And when you prioritize comfort over growth, you bury your own power beneath layers of fear. The world respects the woman who draws the line, who speaks with conviction, who walks away when her worth is questioned. She does not ask for permission. She moves with decision. She is not cruel, but she is clear. She is not arrogant, but she is certain, and that certainty makes her unstoppable. Understand this. Your destiny does not require you to be soft-spoken when truth demands thunder. Your vision will never materialize in the shadows of people pleasing. If you want to lead, you must be willing to walk alone. If you want to build, you must be prepared to be misunderstood. The mind that achieves greatness is governed by discipline, not approval. It listens to its own call, not the crowd's applause. It follows inner guidance, not outer validation. So I ask you, what would your life look like if you stopped trying to be liked and started trying to be legendary? What would happen if you stopped apologizing for taking up space and instead started commanding it? Do not confuse kindness with weakness, and do not let nice become the chain that keeps you bound. You were not born to be agreeable. You were born to be powerful. Now act like it. Being nice often leads to self-sacrifice and diminished self-worth. This idea is not about rejecting kindness or compassion, but rather confronting the dangerous pattern of living to satisfy others at the expense of your own truth. Too often, the so-called nice person becomes a prisoner of her own politeness, trained to be agreeable, to avoid conflict, to put everyone else first, and to silence her own needs and desires under the heavy weight of what others expect from her. This is not virtue. It is a slow erasure of the self. When you are constantly striving to be nice, you begin to trade your authenticity for acceptance. You hesitate to speak up when something is wrong. You avoid setting boundaries because you fear being seen as difficult. You offer your time, your energy, and your emotional labor to people who have not earned it, because deep down, you believe that being needed is the same as being valued. It is not. It never has been. Nice is often a disguise worn to earn approval. It is a performance, a carefully curated version of yourself shaped by years of conditioning that taught you to equate love with obedience and worth with service. And in this process, you begin to disappear. You stop asking what you want. You lose clarity about your own opinions. You second-guess your decisions, afraid that someone might not agree. The very core of your identity becomes unstable, because your entire sense of self is built on how others see you, not how you see yourself. But the world does not reward the people who vanish into the background. It does not promote the ones who never speak up, who never challenge, who never claim what is theirs. The world rewards power. It recognizes conviction. It is drawn to the person who stands firm in who they are, who speaks not to appease, but to influence, who acts not from fear, but from principle. When you live to be nice, you deny yourself that power. Let us understand something. Every time you say yes when you mean no, you train your mind to believe your feelings are not valid. Every time you stay quiet to avoid discomfort, you send a message to your subconscious that your voice is not important. Over time, these small moments compound. They become habits. Habits become identity, and before you know it, you are no longer the author of your own life. You are simply a character shaped by the expectations of others. This is not humility. It is self-abandonment, and no success, no relationship, no amount of praise will ever be enough to fill the emptiness created by the absence of your own truth. To build a life of meaning, you must first unlearn the belief that it is your duty to keep everyone happy. You are not responsible for how others feel about your boundaries. You are not required to dilute your message so it goes down easier for those who fear strength. You are not here to be liked. You are here to live a life that is aligned with your deepest values. Being kind is not the same as being nice. Kindness comes from strength. It is firm, intentional, rooted in purpose. Niceness often comes from fear, the fear of rejection, of judgment, of standing out. And this fear leads you to betray your instincts in the hope that someone else will validate you. But validation is not freedom. It is a leash, and as long as you need it, you will never move beyond the limb it's others place on you. What you must realize is that your time, your energy, your ideas, and your voice are sacred. They are not to be handed out like favors to anyone who demands them. They are tools of transformation, tools that can shape your world, your future, your destiny. But only if you are willing to use them for yourself first. You cannot uplift others while you are buried beneath their expectations. You cannot inspire when you are invisible, and you cannot lead while pretending to be someone you are not. This is not about becoming hard, bitter, or cruel. It is about becoming real, about standing in your truth even when it shakes the room, about being willing to be misunderstood in order to be whole. Because the cost of being nice, when it means abandoning who you are, is a life that never truly belongs to you. True power comes from living by principles, not pleasing people. This distinction marks the difference between a life of fleeting acceptance and one of lasting impact. Pleasing people is reactive. It's shaped by the ever-changing moods, opinions, and demands of others. It forces you to adjust yourself constantly, molding your behavior, words, and even beliefs to fit into the expectations laid out by society, friends, family, or authority. It feels safe because in the short term it earns approval. But that safety is an illusion, and over time it erodes the foundation of who you truly are. Living by principles, on the other hand, is proactive. It means being anchored in a clear set of values you've chosen, examined, and committed to, regardless of whether the world agrees. Principles are immovable. They do not shift with popularity or pressure. They guide your decisions when things are uncertain. They shape your responses when emotions run high, and most importantly, they allow you to live in alignment with your highest self, even if doing so is uncomfortable or unpopular. When your life is governed by the need to please, you begin to see conflict as something to be avoided at all costs. But those who are governed by principle understand that conflict is often necessary. They know that disagreement is not danger. It is merely the price of standing firm. When you live to please, you avoid saying what must be said, for fear it will make others uncomfortable. But when you live by principle, you say it anyway, because truth spoken with courage is more valuable than silence bought by fear. History does not remember the ones who went along to get along. It remembers the ones who stood for something, the ones who dared to act on conviction, the ones who knew what they believed and refused to be moved, even by the roar of opposition. These individuals did not waste time seeking applause. They were not seduced by approval. Their character was not built in the crowd. It was forged in solitude, discipline, and clarity of purpose. This is what it means to be powerful. Living to please others makes you reactive to external validation. Your sense of worth rises and falls with how people treat you. You're high when they praise you, low when they ignore you. You are a puppet, your strings pulled by the opinions of others. But when you live by principle, you develop internal stability. You no longer need applause to feel secure. You no longer crave agreement to know you're right. Your confidence comes from your character, not your reputation. To live by principle requires a choice, and that choice often feels costly. You may lose the approval of those who once depended on your compliance. You may be called difficult. You may be misunderstood. But what you gain in return is the one thing the people pleaser never owns: peace. The peace of knowing that you are not pretending, that you are not hiding, that you are not selling yourself in exchange for short-term comfort. When you are governed by principle, you are not swayed by flattery. You are not manipulated by guilt. You do not allow fear of disapproval to steer your course. Instead, you act from strength. You think long-term. You understand that life is not a popularity contest. It is a mission to grow, to lead, to contribute something real. Pleasing people might win you applause, but principles will give you legacy. True power lies in knowing what you stand for and refusing to betray it. It lies in the quiet resolve of someone who has chosen values over vanity, truth over tactics, purpose over popularity. You are not here to impress the world, you are here to shape it, and that can only be done when your actions are driven by principle, not by the shallow pursuit of being liked. Confidence is built through decision, not approval. It does not arrive wrapped in compliments or delivered through applause. It is forged in the moments when you choose yourself, when you choose clarity over confusion, truth over convenience, and action over hesitation. Approval may feel good, but it is temporary, inconsistent, and often based on conditions you cannot control. Decision, on the other hand, is rooted in power. It is the foundation of all growth, all leadership, all transformation. When you wait for others to approve of you, you give them power over your self-esteem. You put your identity in their hands, hoping they will affirm what you already suspect might be true. But people are fickle. Their opinions are shaped by their own fears, their own limitations, and their own agendas. And if you rely on that to feel strong, you'll always feel uncertain. You'll always feel like you're one step away from collapse, from being questioned, from being rejected. That is not confidence, that is dependency dressed as humility. Confidence begins the moment you stop asking for permission. The moment you decide that your voice matters, your vision is valid, and your instincts are trustworthy. Not because someone else said so, but because you've chosen to believe in them. Confidence is a mental discipline. It is trained by making decisions, big and small, without waiting to be told it's okay. You don't become confident by watching others move. You become confident by moving, especially when no one is clapping. Every time you make a decision without the safety net of consensus, you build strength. You teach yourself that you can stand alone, that you can take a risk, whether criticism, and still move forward. Confidence is not the absence of fear. It is the mastery of fear through commitment. Through doing what must be done even when your hands shake, your voice trembles, and your heart is unsure. Because you understand that growth does not come from playing it safe. It comes from stepping forward, deciding that you are enough, and acting on it before the world agrees. There are people with incredible potential who never rise, not because they lack skill, but because they never give themselves permission to act without approval. They wait for perfect timing. They wait for validation. They wait for someone to tell them they're ready, and in the waiting, their power dies, their confidence fades, not because it wasn't there, but because it was never exercised. The muscle of confidence is strengthened through action. Each time you decide to speak when it's easier to stay silent, you grow. Each time you pursue an idea without waiting for applause, you build. Each time you risk failure because you believe in your ability to figure it out, you evolve. This is the path of every person who has achieved something great, not approval, but decision. Confidence cannot be borrowed, it cannot be gifted, it cannot be found in the opinions of others. It must be earned, and the only way to earn it is to act. Not when everything feels certain, not when everyone agrees, but when it matters most, when the stakes are high and doubt is loud, because it is in those moments, the ones where no one is watching or cheering, that real confidence is born. You do not need to be fearless to be confident. You need only to decide again and again that your fear will not dictate your fate. You do not need to be perfect to be confident. You need only to decide that imperfection will not paralyze you. And you do not need to be liked to be confident. You need only to decide that your worth is not a democracy. It is a declaration made not with words, but with actions. Actions taken, steps walked, battles fought, all without waiting for someone to approve of your strength. This is how confidence is built, through decision, through ownership, through the quiet, daily choice to believe in yourself before the world does. The mind must be trained to value purpose over popularity. This is not a natural instinct. It is a discipline. From an early age, you are conditioned to seek approval. You're rewarded for being liked, for fitting in, for making others comfortable. The praise feels good. The attention feels validating, and slowly, without even realizing it, your mind begins to associate popularity with success, applause with worth, and acceptance with identity. But this is a trap, and it keeps many intelligent, capable people from ever realizing their potential. Popularity is shallow. It is based on perception, not truth. It thrives on conformity, not originality. It asks you to be palatable, to smooth your edges, to keep your head down and your voice soft. It convinces you that it's better to be accepted than to be honest, better to be liked than to be respected. But purpose does not operate in the realm of comfort. Purpose demands that you stand out, that you go against the grain, that you choose the path of resistance when it leads to something meaningful. The mind that has not been trained will always default to safety. It will crave approval and avoid discomfort. It will chase recognition instead of results. But the person who understands the value of purpose knows that real fulfillment does not come from how many people applaud. It comes from knowing you are building something that matters, something that aligns with who you truly are, not who others want you to be. You cannot pursue purpose and popularity at the same time. They are almost always in conflict. Purpose requires decisions that will confuse people, disappoint them, even offend them. It requires you to turn down opportunities that look good but feel wrong. It requires you to say no when yes would make you more likable. It demands focus, integrity, and a vision that cannot be compromised. Popularity, on the other hand, requires you to bend, to follow trends, to water yourself down, to perform a version of yourself that is easy to digest, but impossible to respect. A mind focused on popularity asks, will they like me? A mind focused on purpose asks, is this right? One is concerned with reactions, the other with results. One is reactive and weak, the other is intentional and strong. If you want to do something significant with your life, you must retrain your thinking. You must make peace with not being liked. You must develop the inner strength to stay aligned with your mission, even when it means walking away from applause, approval, or attention. This kind of thinking does not happen overnight. It is forged through repetition, through daily choices that reinforce your commitment to something greater than being liked. It's built when you resist the urge to explain yourself just to make others comfortable. When you stop changing your opinion to match the room. When you take action on what matters most to you, even if nobody notices, understands, or agrees. The moment you stop needing popularity, you become free. You become dangerous, in the best way, because now you are no longer manipulated by opinion. You are no longer stalled by judgment. You are no longer a mirror reflecting what others want to see. You are a fire, self-sustaining purpose, driven, untouchable. And that kind of mind becomes unstoppable because it cannot be controlled from the outside. It knows what it's here to do, and it refuses to be distracted. To live with purpose is to live with direction. It means your time is not wasted, your energy is not scattered, and your identity is not fragmented. You begin to make decisions with clarity, not confusion. You stop chasing temporary affirmation and start building permanent results. And the irony is this: the world eventually respects the person who refuses to chase its approval. The one who stands firm, who dares to lead, who thinks deeply and acts boldly. That person becomes influential not because they sought popularity, but because they pursued purpose without compromise. This is the kind of mind you must train for, a mind that does not flinch when misunderstood, a mind that does not chase applause, a mind that knows what it values, what it believes, and what it will not negotiate. Because once your mind is aligned with purpose, everything else begins to follow. your habits, your focus, your confidence, and ultimately your results. Success demands boundaries, not suggestions, not polite preferences, but clear, immovable lines that protect your time, your energy, and your focus. Without boundaries, success becomes diluted, scattered, and ultimately unsustainable. People without boundaries are not generous, they are exhausted. They are not team players, they are overcommitted. They are not humble, they are overwhelmed. Because when you fail to define the limits of what you will accept, the world will define them for you, and the world will always ask for more than you can afford to give. A life without boundaries is a life lived on other people's terms. Every demand becomes urgent, every opinion becomes a distraction, every invitation becomes an obligation. You find yourself saying yes when you want to say no, showing up when you should be resting, giving when you are already empty, and it all seems noble, until you realize you've built a life that isn't yours. You've become available to everything but yourself, and in that availability your vision gets diluted, your discipline erodes, and your sense of self begins to dissolve. Boundaries are not about being rude. They are about being responsible. They are the fences that guard your mission, the filters that protect your priorities. You cannot achieve anything meaningful if your attention is constantly being hijacked by the needs, expectations, or emergencies of others. Success requires deep work. Deep work requires focus. Focus requires space, and space is only preserved when you have the courage to say no, firmly, unapologetically, consistently. Most people fail to succeed not because they lack talent or ambition, but because they refuse to set boundaries. They are afraid of disappointing others. They fear being labeled selfish, arrogant, or cold. But the truth is, the most successful people are not the most liked. They are the most respected, and respect is born from clarity. Clarity in what they will tolerate, what they value, and what they protect at all costs. You are not here to be everything to everyone. You are here to master your craft, fulfill your calling, and contribute something exceptional. That cannot happen if your calendar is filled with distractions, your mind is cluttered with drama, and your heart is weighed down by obligations that don't serve your future. Boundaries create the conditions for excellence. They preserve the energy needed for greatness. They remind you, and everyone around you, that your time is not for sale. To protect your success, you must be willing to be misunderstood. You must be willing to walk away from the crowd, to stand firm when people question your distance, your silence, your refusal, because people will test your boundaries, they will push, they will negotiate. They will guilt you, flatter you, and even punish you. But you must remember, every time you allow your boundaries to be crossed, you teach the world how to treat you, and eventually you'll wake up in a life filled with noise you never invited. Discipline is not just about waking up early or working hard. It is also about saying no, about recognizing that your goals require your full attention, and anything that drains that attention is a threat. Boundaries are the discipline of the successful. They are the armor of the focused. They are not a wall that keeps people out, but a gate that lets the right things in. And you are the only one who can decide what's worth opening the gate for. There will always be people who don't understand your boundaries. That is not your concern. Your concern is the vision you are building, the results you are creating, the legacy you are leaving. Boundaries protect that. They make sure that when you give, it is from strength, not from depletion, that when you show up, it is with presence, not with resentment, that when you lead, it is with clarity, not with compromise. If you want to rise, you must be selective. With your time, with your relationships, with your commitments, you must treat your attention as a sacred resource because it is. Without it, your potential never becomes power, your ideas never become reality. Your greatness never becomes visible. Boundaries ensure that your attention stays where it belongs, on the work, the mission, the life that you are here to create. That is the path to success, and it begins the moment you decide to protect it.